guys, so here's the big news, definitely of the week, maybe the month, maybe the entire calendar year of 2026. Um, and I've read through this. This is not a little thing, and these are not little changes that are coming our way. Um, I just want to say from the top, I think that this is probably going to affect the older players a lot more than the newer players. And we do have a handful of new players here. I think they will adapt to this probably a lot quicker than the OGs. And for those of us like myself who have, turned 62 in 3 days, have a birthday coming up, I'm actually physically old, and old people hate change. So, and like I said, I think this one is going to cut deep because it really cuts to the central core of the gameplay. It's the HUD, guys, that we're gonna see major changes to. So let's take a look, maybe read a little bit about about it from this article here on the Eve site. The Eve Online HUD is evolving. That's really the headline, right? The goal: better telegraphing, whatever the hell that means, legibility, I guess, and clarity for every player. Okay. This is the first of three blogs on the project, starting with the why, the guiding principles, and how players will help shape it. So hopefully, maybe I guess we're going to have some input. I don't know how that input's going to work. Let's read on a little further. For those who are really new to Eve Online and you don't even know what it is we're talking about, let me undock in a safer ship here, and we'll demonstrate the HUD for you. Let me get into something a little less conspicuous. Get into my Hecate. And so the HUD appears basically when you undock, guys, for the new players. Um, I know there's only a few of you, but I don't want to leave you behind in the conversation. So just to show you, and a lot of I know a lot of players have like all different kind of UI layouts. You can lay these UIs out any way that you care to. Um, this is kind of the default layout, more or less, with some minor adjustments. And so your HUD is this central part. If you can see my cursor, the HUD is the central part of and really like the control center really of your ship, right? More or less, right? So um and so you can see why obviously the HUD is like, any changes to the HUD is going to be gigantic, okay? Just gigantic. So anyway, that's the HUD, guys. That's what we're talking about. So I'll read on a little bit more. Evolving capsuleers. All right. So this is what they supposedly we're evolving too, along with the HUD. You can see where they've really put the hard sell on this, and they have to. They know that. They're treading into like serious territory here to roll this out, and um, I foresee that there will be much contention in the future, especially if they're not going to do it from the top down. It's almost better to do it from the top down and just say, look, this is the way it's going to be, guys. Love it or leave it. Nobody's going to leave it, and everybody's going to eventually love it, right? So, I mean, it would be so much easier if they're going to actually give us some sort of input. I can see like HUD wars going on the Twitch streams, like in the next few weeks, right? So, or months, or however long it takes them to roll this out. Um, the ongoing commitment of Eve Forever continues through Eve Evolved. Over the next few weeks, you will see a few topics discussed: the evolution of the HUD, modernizing our code base as we prepare the move to Python 3, and some exciting lighting and VFX improvements. Well, that's all great stuff, actually, really, to be honest with you. This is the first post of three diving into the journey of the evolving EVE Online heads up display, the HUD. So make sure you check back for upcoming installments. Oh, we will. I'm sure I'm not the only streamer that's on this. this came on my radar hard and fast. So we want to be transparent about the reasons behind the plan changes, have a conversation, and most importantly, to get your feedback to shape the development, much like we did with the 2D map and the Photon UI. Over the course of the series, details will be shared about individual parts of the HUD, the thinking behind the changes being explored, and the main lesson learned throughout the design process. The first post starts with the bigger picture, the reason behind the HUD updates, the principles guiding that work, and how players are helping shape what comes next. But why? That's my biggest question. But why? Our long term strategy is to make it easier for new players. See, there's been a lot of focus on new players. Now, that's great, but I mean, let's just hope that they don't take this whole and it's really been the last couple of years, this whole push to make the new player experience. Let's hope. I mean, there's people that would already argue that the new player experience, the way it has been redesigned, is already eroding gameplay with Exordium, being like this ultra high sec system. Anyway, that's another clip. Our long term strategy is to make it easier for new players to get into the game without sacrificing the depth that existing players value. To achieve that, we need to look closely at the first interactions players have with the game and identify where we can reduce unnecessary friction. So they're going to simplify the HUD for the new players. One of the first interfaces players engage with, well, of course, is the HUD. So we want to explore ways to make that initial experience clearer and more approachable for new players while still supporting the needs and expectations of veteran players. The goal is not to make ease simpler, okay, but to make its complexity easier to engage with. An iconic part of Eve, the HUD encompasses many different points of player interaction. For the context of this blog and the first iteration, we are looking at the part of the HUD called the command board. The command board is the center bottom part of the HUD and consists, for example, of the capacitor, module, shields, armor. For the purposes of this article, that is what is meant by the HUD. So as I showed you on my Eve game, um, that that's it. That's the control of the ship, man. Really, it doesn't even need a label. It is what it is. The HUD has seen many small iterations throughout the years. Not that I've noticed, but I don't believe it's changed much in the last 15 years, but perhaps. But its general look, feel, and structure have remained remarkably consistent. Much of the foundations of its current form dates to around 2005. For many players, this is the only HUD they have ever known. Right here. Okay. Uh, it became an iconic part of Eve and an important part of the game's visual identity. So really, they're just selling on why this is going to be a really difficult change for a lot of people, to be honest with you. Being tried and tested does not mean it is without its faults, however. This is particularly apparent when watching someone experience Eve for the first time. Some important features can be difficult to discover, and information that experienced players have learned to read instinctively is not always communicated as clearly as it could be. Overheating and precise speed controls are good examples. But the challenges go deeper than individual features. New players can struggle to understand the different states of modules, what is happening to their ship, and which pieces of information require their attention at any given moment. Why now? Over the years, we have explored many ways the HUD could be changed or updated. Some concepts have proposed radical changes to how the interface operates. Others have been almost entirely cosmetic, with plenty of ideas that are somewhere in between. Many of these explorations have been valuable, but they have remained explorations and never progressed beyond the drawing board. And they got some examples here. Can we enlarge these? So I guess these are some of the examples of ideas that they've had in the past for the new HUDs. Like I said, for the old people like myself, this is going to be a whole new learning curve, no matter what angle they adopt with this. I guess these are some of the older ideas. So, anyway. All right, so following the release of the Photon UI and with our focus now aligning around this area of the game, we believe this is the right moment to take a more deliberate look at the HUD. The intention is not to change it simply to make it look new and shiny. The HUD has decades of history behind it, and any changes need to respect the knowledge, habits, and expectations players have built around it. Instead, the primary goal is to improve telegraphing, legibility, and clarity. Well, this seems like a great goal. I'd love, hopefully, later in the article, maybe we'll see some examples of this, right? We want moment to moment piloting to feel more natural and intuitive. Danger should be easier to recognize. Important features should be easier to discover. New players should be able to bring more of their existing understanding of games and interfaces into Eve. What? So you're supposed to like compare WoW to this? I mean, come on. I don't know. That's a bit of a stretch. While experienced players should gain greater precision and insight from information available to them. Well, I think what older players are going to want to see is more information. Not I don't think that we'll care that much about the cosmetic upgrades or the telegraphing because we already know where stuff is. I think what we're going to want to see is that they can add stuff that we are constantly doing that really could be on the HUD. That for me, I guess that for me would be my one thing that I'd like to see is maybe there's some info that could be on there that would be useful. Um, the goal is not to make Eve simpler, but to make its complexity easy. They already said this. They're just repeating themselves. Designing with the players. Let's see how we're going to engage with this. Of course, designing an interface like this cannot happen in isolation. However much experience we bring to the problem, a design is ultimately a hypothesis about what will work best for the people using it. The best way to make that hypothesis stronger is to put it in front of the players, observe how they use it, listen to where it succeeds or fails, and iterate. Player research has therefore been a major part of the process so far. Well, this is news to me. Nobody's asked me about the HUD. This has all come on my radar like in the last couple of days. We have conducted interviews and usability sessions with new players to better understand where the current HUD creates friction and how effectively new designs communicate important information. We have also worked closely with the CSM. That's for those who are new. That's the basically the player council. That it's an elected council of players who then interact with the developers on our behalf, reviewing the concepts and iterations with them and drawing on their breadth of experience across different areas and play styles within Eve. At FanFest, we took this work directly to the players. Oh, so they must have demoed some stuff at FanFest. We held a dedicated workshop around the HUD and gathered feedback from players who visited the UI UX booth, giving us another opportunity to see how people respond to the direction and to hear concerns, ideas, and perspectives we may not otherwise have encountered. Well, that's actually pretty cool. Through these conversations, we had several iterations on our work. At this point, we have confidence in the direction we're taking and believe the changes we are working toward represent an improvement to the overall Eve experience. Well, we have to really hope because this is really, again, this is so central to the gameplay that I can't think of anything else more central they could change. Really, to be honest with you. But confidence is not the same thing as completion. Eve has an extraordinarily complex interface, that's no joke, used by players with vastly different levels of experience, activities, setups, and playstyles. Things will inevitably be overlooked. A change that improves clarity in one situation may introduce friction somewhere else. Something that appears straightforward in a usability test may feel very different after hundreds or thousands of hours of play. And that is why the next stage of this process needs to involve a much larger group of players. Here we go. This is kind of the drum roll moment. The next step is in putting it in your hands. The new HUD will be made available to the wider Eve community through the feature previews section of the client section settings. So this is a settings I'm familiar with, guys. So in your launcher, I believe this is in your launcher. Oh, I get maybe it's in your client settings. So it's in your client settings. Um, but and we can even look at it because I'm docked, so or I can dock. So again, just for the new people, the HUD is this central part here. I'll go ahead and dock up, and we'll look at what they're talking about. How you This is how you can basically set yourself up to try the new HUD as it's rolled out. And so we'll just step through that. Really, it's really pretty easy, but and they're giving you the instructions. So when you're in Eve Online, up at the top, the hamburger, what I call the hamburger, your neocom hamburger, and then you go down and find your settings. Okay, and then they're gonna let's continue to read the instructions here. Um, Hold on, let me go back to Eve Online. So there's your settings. Let's go back over here now and read just a tad bit further. Um, so it's going to begin with an opt-in beta. We're going to look for the features preview section. We'll find it ourselves. It might even just be under general, but not. We'll find it for ourselves. And user interface. Here we go. I bet you anything. Maybe in here. No, I don't see it. What do we got here? Gameplay? Dueling map chat. Crashes. Boarding cinematic. Huh. I wonder where this actually is. See, I thought it was in the launcher, but they don't actually give the specific. The new HUD will be made through the feature preview section of the client settings. Well, I don't actually see the feature previews. But I'm half blind now, too, and this stuff is really small for me. About Eve? Nah, I wouldn't be there. This is just credits. Alright, let's go back up to the top. Displaying graphics. We're gonna find it. User interface. It's gotta be here. Tooltips, mouse cursor, notifications. Huh. Well, they say it's in here, new features, but I don't actually see it. So maybe it's not come out yet. I don't know. Maybe they haven't activated that yet. If anybody knows where it is, say so in chat. I'm not finding this new features setting. I know I've seen it before though. Well, I can't actually bring up the launcher without like fucking with the stream. So maybe it's not showed up yet. Maybe it will. The new HUD will be made available to the wider Eve community through the feature preview section of the client settings. They could have taken it one more step and told us which menu it's in. The process will be similar to the rollout of Photon UI. It will be an opt-in beta, allowing players to choose the new HUD, spend meaningful time with it, and provide feedback. The feedback will be used. So this, I guess this has not happened yet, but this is where it'll be. It'll be in the. We'll have to keep our ear to the ground and see when they put that opt-in actually in the settings menu. I did not see it in there, and I just checked pretty thoroughly. So as updated HUD matures and evolves, we plan to move into an opt-out beta, which means that so as they move further along, you'll actually have to opt out of the new HUD as opposed to opting in. And I guess all that's going to take place in the client settings, which is your hamburger at the top, the neocom. Go down and click on settings. This sort of testing, blah 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 blah. We encourage players of every experience level, and we're gonna try it. We'll try it on the stream. Um, and so they just really want to hear from us. Exactly what the HUD becomes through the feature previews is still being determined. There is also much to the work that we have covered here. Much more to the work than what we have covered here. So there's going to be upcoming posts, yada yada. So there it is, guys. I mean, I don't know. We can make these pictures a little bigger, see if we can have some idea where they're going with it. I mean, that's interesting for the center of the HUD. So we can see, maybe get like some idea of where they're going. This looks like the old one here on the right, as opposed to a new one on the left. Definitely the center wheel, I think, is going to change quite a bit, probably. And it looks like maybe the layout of where your modules are going to be as well. So there you have it, guys. The new HUD. It's a thing. There's nothing we can do about it. We gotta live with it. Um, it is what it is. So we're gonna keep up on it. We're gonna keep up on it and keep abreast of it. I'll do segments every time I see a new um, news article. I'll keep an eye out in the settings for when we can start to opt in, and I'll do streams on it as well, demonstrating the new HUD and the new features. Um, so this is huge, really. This, like I said, this from a developer standpoint, I mean, this is as big, if not bigger, than an expansion. I mean, this is really gonna, and this is gonna be with us for a while. Expansions come and go. This is something that I think is gonna, is gonna become a part of Eve going forward. I am really excited that along with this announcement, they also throw in a little bit of ice cream on top with the idea that they're still iterating on better and shinier graphics. They're rolling out Python 3, which I think is going to make the game roll a lot smoother, guys. I really think that that's going to change um, everything. It's, Python 3's been out for a long, if you're a coder, you know that Python 3's been around out for a long, long time. It's really time for them to make that move. Way, 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 way past time. So doing that, I have a feeling is going to also change a lot. And I think that while they're breaking open that code base to do that work, I believe there'll be a lot of little improvements on speed and efficiency along, maybe even some major ones along the way as well. So this is yeah, this is our news segment. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. So I'm gonna put that actually. I'm gonna clip that later on and put it on YouTube for other people to watch. Um, and so thanks for your patience on it. Happy Saturday, everybody.